I call Melissa Lee.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have to say that I'm rather disappointed in the previous speaker. First of all, she actually said that that this legislation will do nothing for the crime levels. And I guess then she actually sort of tried to say that the courts are already dealing with it, saying that it is already a mitigating factor. So there is a huge difference in when something is maybe considered in one hand or being required to be considered. It's sort of like the difference between attempted murder on one side and murder. There's a huge difference between attempted murder and murder. It's like it may be considered or it is required to be considered as a mitigating factor. Huge difference. Perhaps this is the reason this opposition who claims that National has done nothing is saying they had 9 years to deal with this. They're saying we're not doing anything for victims. Hello, the police officers are not victims. We are looking after the victims. Every time our police don their blue uniforms, every time our police officers don their blue uniforms, they are putting their lives on the line. Whether they're answering a 111 call, investigating a disturbance, or patrolling a beat, police officers on the front line working for us, working to keep us safe, but every time they do their duty to protect us, their lives are on the line. Prison officers too come up against violence in the course of performing their duties. It's part of their job, and that's what we expect them to do so. And they accept that their job comes with a certain amount of risk and danger. But what happens when a police officer or a prison officer is attacked? We've all seen in newspapers and on TV the horrific injuries suffered by police officers in their line of duty. And over the last 5 years, as other members have actually said, there has been a huge increase in both the rate and the number of assaults on police officers and prison officers. And that's why the Minister is putting forward this bill, and I commend the Minister for doing so. Unlike the opposition who claim that this bill does nothing, I believe that it will make a difference. Because I don't know how many of us would actually want to do what we expect the frontline police and prison officers have to deal with on a day-to-day basis. I certainly would not actually want to do what they do. Being put in danger, putting their lives on danger, their families constantly being worried about their safety every time they go out there doing their job to keep us safe. The purpose of the Sentencing Aggravating Factors Amendment Bill is to ensure that it becomes a fact that an offence was committed against police officers or prison officers acting in the course of their duty is taken into account as a mitigating factor at sentencing. And as the previous speaker said, it is currently available, but only as a maybe. It may be considered as an aggravating factor, maybe. As I said, huge difference between a maybe and should be and must be requiring the court to be so. Sir, this is there. Oh dear. National wants to send a clear message that assaults against law enforcement officers is unacceptable. We actually back our men and women in blue. We support our police force. And that is the reason why, sir, I support this bill, and I commend this bill to the House and look forward to its passage through the Select Committee stages.
Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Nanaia Mahuta.
Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to stand and offer some comments to the Sentencing Aggravating Factors Amendment Bill and simply restate, if one was to listen to very carefully to this debate, Labor backs police. We are certainly sure that it's important to care and protect our policemen, our policewomen and our corrections officers. All we're saying in supporting this bill to select committees, we actually don't think that this will make a big difference because judges at the moment can take into account aggravating factors around existing crimes. And in fact, if you looked at the situation when they do take aggravating factors into account, there is some variance within the judiciary in terms of when they make their sentencing options known after some consideration. Having listened to the member before me speak, volume is no substitute for clear thought, and she certainly demonstrated that. Mr. Speaker, we want to ensure that the House is very clear on Labour's position, because if you were to believe what the government members were saying, that they are trying to insinuate that Labour has no care or regard whatsoever for the good people that serve our communities day in, day out, in our provinces and in our cities to protect everyday Kiwi citizens. We absolutely believe that their protection is at the forefront of the duty, the difficult task that they do. But can I raise an issue with regards to security guards? And it was something that my colleague Carmel Sepuloni raised to the attention of the House, and it is in our prisons. I mean, corrections officers themselves will say that by double bunking alone in prisons, that actually creates an environment that is less safe for them to carry out their tasks than safe. And let's be very clear that it was actually the government that introduced double bunking, recognising still from the sector of security of corrections officers that they were creating a more unsafe environment. This bill will do nothing to enhance safety of corrections officers working under those circumstances, and we raise those types of issues as very real opportunities for the government to take action and ensure that corrections officers are better protected in the workplace. This bill, if one were to take a somewhat cynical view of it, yes, prepares the way for the national members on that side of the House to have a slogan that they can go out to the community with, but it does very little in terms of delivering to where it's needed most, to those frontline officers, to ensure that they are protected in their workplace. I mean, one of the members on the government side talked about the provinces and how every day police officers go out in rural communities by themselves, but they say nothing about ensuring double staffing in rural police stations. They are not raising that as a potential opportunity to address safety issues in rural communities, where it could be a real practical step towards safety and for officers serving in those rural communities. Mr. Speaker, I'm concerned that the government is misrepresenting the view of Labour. We support police, we back them, we back corrections officers, we back a safe environment for them, but we don't believe that the legislation...
Sorry to interrupt the honourable member. The time has come for me to leave the chair. This debate is interrupted. The House is suspended until 9 a.m. tomorrow.